So first of all, for those who are here with us in person and those who are at home watching and will watch throughout the coming days, we want to again give a warm Sinai Temple welcome to Patricia Heaton. I have to also give a shout out to my parents who are watching, who are huge fans of yours. Huge fans, and so they are very excited by today's conversation. They're watching from Orange County today. And I'm hoping you'll start us off really with October 7th. What were you watching? What were you hearing? And what propelled you to begin October 7th Coalition?
As most of you are aware, a lot of that body cam footage from Hamas was online, social media, Facebook, Instagram. They were posting it proudly and gleefully, and I saw it, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was just astonished, and I was outraged, and I currently live in Nashville as my primary residence, and there's 3 churches on every corner in Nashville, good, kind people, and I looked around and I assumed that all the churches would be flying Israeli flags by October 8th. Like, I just thought there would be signs, pictures of hostages in the front lawns of churches, and there was nothing. And I just thought, am I the only one that saw this? And it so deeply affected me. And so I just didn't understand it, because I know so many of these people. I know they're good people. I know they love Israel. And so I reached out to my friend Elizabeth, and we talked about it because Elizabeth is a Christian, also married to a Jewish man and raising in a multi-faith household now. And so we talked about it, and we thought we need to go talk to pastors and find out what's happening. And we started with a breakfast, and it was right before Christmas. So it was something like December 22nd. We put a breakfast together at a country club, and we had myself, Elizabeth's husband, who's Jewish, a Palestinian Christian, a Jewish person from Israel, a pastor whose mission has been, his heart is for Israel. And we all got up and spoke about antisemitism, and asked any questions from anybody of how can we help them. And we had 80 pastors show up the week before Christmas, which was a pretty big deal. And we started finding the ones that were really supporting Israel. One of them at Conduit Church, Darren Tyler, his church raised $250,000, I think, to start rebuilding the kibbutzim. And he's been over there quite a bit, and he's been very super supportive. And then we had Church of the City we put together with them and Pastor Christy McClelland an event called a Unity Dinner. And we had all the Jewish leaders in Nashville and rabbis and federation leaders come with all these pastors. It was about 250 people, kosher event, so that everybody could participate. And we just came together to talk to each other, to speak, to talk about moving forward together. We reached out with a letter to everyone in Nashville, every Jewish leader and rabbi, and about it was like over 200 Christian leaders signed it saying, we're here for you. We want you to know you can reach out to us anytime for anything you need. One of those rabbis, Rabbi Saul Strasberg of Congregation Shrith Israel, actually it's a funny story how I met him. I was at my dermatologist having my face work done, and I said to my dermatologist, Dr. Beisman, I said, do you go to synagogue? He's like, yeah. I said, where do you go? And he told me, and I said, okay, my husband and I would like to make a contribution to your synagogue, to whatever you need it for. And so, literally, by the time I got home, and I had my face like fried off, and it was covered in goo, I get a phone call, and it's Rabbi Saul Strasberg going, hey, Dr. Beisman told you want to make a contribution. And so it turned out that this congregation, Shereth Israel, is a very musical congregation, much like this one. And he had an idea. He said, "This is music. Nashville is Music City, and we want to honor some IDF soldiers who are musicians and give them some trauma therapy and have them come to Nashville and produce their music." And I said, "Yeah, we can do that." And then I called Elizabeth and said, "Can we do that?" And it culminated in a wonderful Grammy Award-winning producer friend of mine, Steve Schnurr, gathering his talented friends and paying for musicians and studio time. And we flew 3 Israeli musicians over who had just finished their IDF service. And we recorded their music. And now it's a movement called the Promise Sessions. And we debuted their music Thursday night at the Nova exhibit here in Los Angeles. And you'll be able to find more of it as we continue to put it out on Spotify and different places. And we're also working on getting the music from fallen soldiers and producing it and giving it to their families to have. So we at O7C, we are just constantly open to coming into churches, to coming into synagogues, to finding ways that we can all show, as we say, visibly and vocally supportive of the Jewish people, of Israel's right to exist, and to fight anti-Semitism. So that's what we're doing. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
And if I may say, when you walked in, Patricia had revealed to me that this is the first synagogue that she's spoken at.
Yes.
So how lucky are we that she chose Sinai Temple? With all of the incredible work that you're doing, I'm wondering if you'll also share with us some of the backlash that you've received. First and foremost, I know we're all curious about your experience in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry. Are you the sole speaker? Are people writing you emails, calls? What kind of backlash are you receiving in the industry?
I have to say, I have not received any real backlash. I am very active on social media, and I'm actively block people, and my DMs are not open. So I don't know why anyone would have open direct messages, because just crazies get in there and say heinous things. So I've been, very diligent about having a really clean timeline, and it's nothing but love and support there. Here's the thing, been in Hollywood for 32 years or more, and for the most part, I grew up as a Democrat, because I'm Irish Catholic, we're Kennedy Catholics, right? And in Ohio, very Catholic family. My mother was one of 15 children. Yes, her mother, my grandmother, was Catholic Mother of the Year and got a medal from the Pope. She and my grandfather went to Rome. My sister's a nun, a Dominican nun in Nashville. It's a teaching order, yes. And so, and we were always Democrats. And then as a Catholic and pro-life, and so we had to, once the Democrats became very, very pro-abortion, in my mind, I had moved into the Republican Party. So I come to Los Angeles. I'm a pro-life Republican in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. And so I'm used to not being at the cool kids table, you know what I'm saying? But all this stuff comes and goes. You have to have principles that don't waver, regardless of if it benefits you or not. You have to, that's the only thing that makes you who you are. And, having this Judeo-Christian foundation, and our roots are in God's word, and we claim what he tells us, and we try as best we can with the help of his Spirit to do what he tells us. And so, and I think I'm blessed, and you're blessed to have your faith tradition, because it gives you that moral guideline to stick with it when it gets tough, because you have promises. You have promises that God gave you, and you have to keep holding on to those promises. And that's why it's so important to be steeped in his word, because it's very easy to waver when things don't seem to be going your way, or when the battle gets tough, or when everyone is against you and you're kind of a little David and you have not just one Goliath but many Goliaths. And so I think it's just such a gift and a blessing to have our Judeo-Christian heritage. And for me to be steeped in this community has really strengthened my faith, because it's where our roots are. You know, Christians are just like dogs that were grafted onto your precious roots, you know. And so it's so true. Jesus even said it in the New Testament when that Gentile woman came up to him and wanted to be healed, and he's like, I'm here for Israel, I'm not here for the dogs. And she said, but even the dogs get scraps off the family table. And he was like, you're right. And he healed her. So that's why I always think of, like, we're like this, you know, grafted on, fortunate, merciful God did this for us. And so it's very important to hold on to that. And just being among the Jewish people and learning and deeper the traditions has enriched my soul so much, and has enriched my faith. And it has compressed time for me, because the more I delve into the Old Testament and the readings of the Torah, I just feel like we're so close to our original roots. It's not 2,000 years, or how much for the Christians, 2,000 years, and Jews much longer, but it's not that long of time in God's plan. It's a very short time, and I feel very close to the origins of all of this.
We often say that we are much closer and aligned than we are apart.
Oh,
and the fact that you walk into the doors of our sanctuary, please know we don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you'll speak a little bit more. I'm wondering about the momentum of your organization. Are you finding, you know, from that initial group that you are, you know, being reached out to from other pastors around the country, around the world? Is it really kind of a core concentrated effort?
Yes.
What's it looking like?
We have so many people, both Christians and, of course, many Jewish people reaching out. So many. Poor Elizabeth gets overwhelmed with the emails we're trying to answer. She's raising kids too, and so we have the help of friends like Leslie and a lot of other people come alongside us as volunteers, and so it's been overwhelming, the response. We're so taken aback. We just sort of one morning said to each other, so what should we do? Oh, let's reach out to this pastor. And from there, it's just snowballed into so many people. And we've been in Miami and Dallas. We're heading to New York. We're going to D.C. We were in Denver. We've been out in L.A. a couple different times. And I'm finally heading to Israel in November. So, so I'm excited about it. I'm very excited. I'm almost a little... I get so emotionally overwhelmed just in this service. I can't imagine what being in Israel is going to be like. It's just one long, like, incredible service of, you know, God present everywhere and the history right in front of us, you know. The need is there. This isn't going to end anytime soon. And I think that, you know, the thing is, we all knew anti-Semitism was out there. We all knew radical Islam was there, but we thought it was contained. And, you know, it's not. And it's exploded. And so we are going to have to live a different way now. But I think there's joy in everybody we've met and the new alliances. You know, being Irish Catholic, I've always like, yay, Irish. And then this happened, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Irish are deeply anti-Semitic. I did not know this. But you know what? We've come to a place where we're going to have to, like, leave certain idols behind that we had, or alliances that we had, but they're being replaced with incredible, beautiful new ones. So God is, you know, giving us to each other to be together, and it's so joyous, and it's so rich, and it's powerful. It's powerful. It doesn't have to be a lot of us. Somebody once pointed out that there were only a handful of Jewish people involved in the civil rights movement. But there were also only a handful of black people really involved in the civil rights movement, the people who were making things happen. He said, it doesn't matter how many people, it's the right people. So we never have to feel discouraged that there aren't, like, thousands of us coming behind us. If we have the right 10 people, the world will change. The world will change.
I think that, you've been truly inspiring this entire morning, but what you just said is something I'm going to take with me, and I know many of us will take with us, because October 8th, I think so many of us thought that our phones would be ringing off the hook and we'd be getting emails and whatever it may be from various friends in both the Jewish world and non-Jewish world. And there was a lot of silence.
Yes.
A lot of silence. And I think what you're saying is so important for us to remember, that it gave an opening for new friendships and highlighted alliances and relationships. And we have to open our eyes to that, and we have to strengthen those alliances and those friendships.
That's
and
right.
those relationships. So thank you for opening our eyes to that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you'll speak for a moment, and then I'm going to open up to the congregation, and I'll get the final question. Tell us your impressions. A few of us went to the Nova Festival exhibit here in Culver City, and we I think it was last Tuesday night that we attended. I believe the exhibit is open through mid-October, and I'm wondering if you will help shed some light on the exhibit from your eyes.
Yes, and let me just say to your previous comment, the day after October 7th, one of the first things I posted on Instagram was a video, and I said, did you ever have that thought, gee, if I were a German during World War II, I hope I would be the good German who hid or helped my Jewish friends. Well, friends, today is your opportunity to be the good German and reach out to your Jewish friends, because I had been reaching out to my friends and they were like, you're the only person that called. I just think there's a lot of ignorance. People don't connect. They don't realize how the Jewish community here is so deeply connected to Israel. And there's also many, many Christians that love Israel. They go there because Jesus was born there and his life was there. But they come back and they don't know any Jewish people in their own neighborhood. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to fix with O7C. What was the next question you asked me?
About the Nova exhibit.
Yes, the Nova exhibit. I saw it in New York. I had been in New York. I spoke at Columbia University at the beginning of the year at the hostage rally at Columbia University. And I met Carmel's brother Or there. And we talked about, and you can see if you go to either the official O7C social medias or my social media, we posted some of that speech that I did there that day. And after that, I went to the Nova exhibit in New York, and it's very powerful. It's like going to a Holocaust museum. And I think it's really important for anyone who has access to go and see it. I know it's much more difficult for Jewish people, and so I would never, I can say this to Christians, you need to go see what happened. You need to see what Jewish people are suffering through. This is their people. And as we say at O7C, it's the biological family of our Jewish Savior is being murdered. We have to stand up. We have to stand up. So, and it really brings it home when you see the Nova exhibit. It's really powerful.
I know this group must have some questions. He's got the microphone, so he gets to choose.
Thank you. Hi, Patricia. First of all, thank you so much in so many different ways for your support, for your words. Really, it's right here. Couple things. Number one, our son was married in Nashville, and his wife's uncle is Dr. Beisman, who was at the wedding. So, and Rabbi Strasberg kind of orchestrated.
I just realized that this is streaming, so Dr. Beisman, hi.
Oh. And you know,
you're going to get a lot more clients, because look how good I look.
And then, of course, Rabbi Strasberg was the one that kind of orchestrated everything about the wedding. He didn't officiate, but
yes.
So anyways, we've got a little history there.
Nice.
So it's wonderful you're going to Israel in November. Can't wait. I would actually love to hear your reflections when you come back. But do you have an itinerary? What are your plans?
We don't know yet, do we? No.
But is
Lots of what? Lots of holy sites. Yes.
Right now, is your trip the two of you, or are you going with a group of pastors?
Are you coming? We don't know. I'm going for sure.
Well,
Not
let
sure
us
about
help
Elizabeth.
you.
We'll
okay?
come too.
Please, let us
Yeah.
help plan
But
that itinerary.
we are going to be doing a bigger trip in the new year,
Good.
a women's conference for Jewish and Christian women called Deborah Rising
Wow.
that we're working on.
Well, we can't wait
Can
to
I say
learn
that?
more about that. Good question, Gail.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be in touch with Elizabeth and with you.
Yeah.
We'd love to be able to help.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, I love all of the words that you used. I love your mission. I love this project. I also heard you mention Western civilization early on, as I think as part of the introduction. And as a mother and as a child neurologist, I'm kind of thinking even globally about this and just throwing ideas out into the ethos about this. But I think that there seems to be a gap in the education that we're providing our children regarding Western civilization, and it seems that gap is what led to or enabled the protests at these universities. And so maybe just putting it out there, if anyone wants to combine forces and think of a way to teach the values of Western civilization, which are founded on the Judeo-Christian foundations of our country, to the next generation.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I know I did an interview with Marissa Streit for PragerU.
Oh, perfect.
Dennis
I was gonna
Prager is
make that
doing a lot of
connection.
good
Yes.
work in that area. So if they're not getting it at school,
Yes.
Prager University is a great place to get a lot of that information. But also, one of the things we've talked about from day one is the universities we saw, the explosion on campus. And it continued. I mean, it's just mind-blowing that Columbia University does not seem to have changed. Like, we're getting on a year anniversary. Kids are now back to school again, and they're still facing the same thing. It's hard to process. But I'm going to be having a call with hundreds of Christian campus leaders because we feel like we need to get, whether it's Campus Crusade for Christ, InterVarsity, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, to come to the Hillels and the Chabads on campus and have all those students coming together, supporting each other. And for them to be, for the Jewish students to educate the Christian students, and then for all of them to go out and be talking to their peers. It has to come from the young people, too. And so, and you see it, if you go to an Israel rally, it's songs, it's love, it's peace, it's joy, it's happiness. You see these rallies on campuses or in New York or London. My husband's British, we're over there a lot. And it's aggressive, it's hostile, it's violent, it's wanting to tear down Western civilization. I'm like, well, how did we get there? How did we get there? And that's why it's not just a Jewish problem. We're also partnering with Jubelong, Archie at Jubelong, and they have the big pink billboards, and so you'll see the 07C logo. But we recognized, I met Archie in New York also, and we recognized this is not about just the Jews. It's about democracy, freedom, women's rights, everybody's rights, Western civilization, and that if someone like Archie, who's like, she's a liberal, New York and Jewish, and someone like me, who's conservative Catholic, can come together. We said any political things have to go on the back burner right now, and we all have to be one voice fighting for our shared values, and we have many shared values.
Touching upon what you just said, I went to a Christian school in Iran, and I know, and I'm very involved with Judaism. Both Christians and Jews preach love, compassion, celebration. I think this focus having lived in the Middle East and coming from there, I think the focus has to be placed on what these evildoers preach. They preach hate, they preach destruction, and I think if the American people realize that the question is not focused only on Jews come first, the next step is Christians, the next step is LGBT. I think as a celebrity, maybe you should put also the focus on groups that finance that destruction very subliminally, and is infiltrating our colleges and our community. As a celebrity, how can you put the focus on the other end and educate the American people and Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood is a mystery. All this information is out there. so if you're signing on to something, you're either just following like the herd, and you want to be part of whatever is the cool thing to sign on to, and maybe you haven't really looked into it. I doubt many of the Hollywood people are actually anti-Semitic. I think they're very confused and miseducated, because I know people on some of these lists, and I know they're not terrible people. So, but there seems to be a bit of a willful ignorance, and they're taking the narrative has been constructed to make Israel look like the bad guys. So that's part of the problem, is like communication. As far as the financing goes, that's kind of not what our remit is. But there's a lot of groups out there that expose, well, we all know, they've said on the news, Iran and Qatar have given billions to the universities, that they're financing these professors and these programs. So the information is all out there. Our focus really is on getting Christians, as I said, to be visibly and vocally supportive of the Jewish people and to fight anti-Semitism, because, you know, Jewish people look around, they look on TV, they look at college campuses, people at Starbucks are wearing keffiyehs, you know, watermelon shirts. You see the rallies, the aggressive, hostile rallies. Everywhere you look, you're just seeing, oh my gosh, we're alone, and people, all these people want our destruction. But there's actually so many Christians, but we haven't put the symbols on to let you know. Like, I think every Christian should be wearing a Star of David, like, so that you know, so that their Jewish friends know, oh, okay, we do have friends. They're there. We're not only seeing symbols of hate, we're seeing symbols of support. So I'm trying to find ways to help Christians really be visibly supportive so that you feel supported.
Well, I met you a couple of months ago at another meeting where I thank you because I didn't know anything about O7C, and that's when I learned about your volunteer, your work, so thank you again. Just one thing I wanted to get upon is something that you mentioned. You said, I didn't know the Irish people were so anti-Semitic. I would like to know, do you think that Irish people that are so Catholic are, or is it the government? Because,
well, it's definitely Sinn Féin.
Because
you know, definitely, they have that victim narrative going on for many, many years, and there was terrible time. The Troubles is terrible time then, but you have to grow and develop and move on. And you know, it's so interesting. Like, God gives us all different gifts, and I feel like the Irish Catholic, like, pugnacious spirit is what. We're always looking for a fight. Like, that's why I like, people say this is courageous. I'm like, I kind of enjoy it.
Okay, that was not really my question.
So like
my question was because of what I heard. I wanted to ask you that.
Yes.
Because
no,
I am waiting for the silent majority, like you said, all the Christians getting up and saying, we are with you. But the real question for me is, I am from Argentina, so my first language, my mother tongue is Spanish. Are you reaching out to all those churches where there are so many Christian people that I don't know how much they know, because I am like trying to educate the cleaning lady that comes to my house. And she listens to me, but I realized that her children, when I told her, your daughter has to go to the Nova exhibit, I am going to buy a ticket for her, she came out and she said, oh, she went once with the school to the Tolerance Museum, and it was so strong for her. She came out crying. She cannot go to the Nova exhibit. And I was like, oh, what do I do? How can I help?
Well, education is, it's super important, and that's part of what we're doing. We're working really hard to get people educated. So it's just Elizabeth and I right now putting all this together. So there's a lot of moving parts, and as we build the organization, we'll be able to sort of address all those things the way we want to. Yeah.
But did you hear what she just said, though? It's Patricia and Elizabeth doing all of this. There's no like CEO or some kind of admin over here, admin over there. It's the two of them. They're the army. And so I just really want, for those who are here and at home listening, how indebted we are to these two warriors. It also means that if you need help, we're also here.
Yes, we have so many people that have come alongside us and volunteered their time, which has been really great. And the advantage right now where we are is that literally our decisions are made without having to get board approval. It's Elizabeth texting me in the morning and saying, hey, do you want to go to Washington on September 18th? I'm like, let me get the calendar. Yeah, okay, we'll go. It's helpful, but she's raising kids. You know, I'm trying to get some acting work. So, you know, we do need a few more paid people to come aboard and do our scheduling for us and answer emails for us and stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
It proves the point. You want a job done, give it to a woman. First of all, thank you for being a voice. I think that the challenge has been, where are our friends? I know my work colleagues started texting me, so I was really so appreciative that when those messages came from them. But I wanted to touch upon when I see things like Artists for Ceasefire and these lists, and I think to myself, are these folks, and I think you touched upon it, so this is a question/comment, like, are they that uneducated? Don't they realize what has happened? I'm curious as to your thoughts about, or maybe you can elaborate more.
You know, we had this beautiful event Thursday night at the Nova exhibit where we introduced the music from the Promise Sessions. It was so full of love and joy and hope and healing. And then I got home and I saw the text like, oh, Artists for Ceasefire just came out. And I scrolled down, it's everybody in Hollywood. And I was like, oh my God, it's everybody. It's everybody except for Deborah Messing and me and Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman and, you know, some Jewish friends. But it's everybody signed it. And I was just flabbergasted. I mean, it's a herd mentality. I think people just jump on board whatever is the latest thing. And the language they use, it's just they're giving half the story. They don't talk about Hamas at all. They don't talk about the hostages. They don't talk about the murders and the rapes and the beheadings and the burnings that are all done by Hamas. The fact that Hamas started it. The fact that Israel has never started a war. The fact that Hamas broke a ceasefire. That's why this thing happened. The fact that Hamas turned down like 20-some ceasefire opportunities. The latest one was August 23rd, I think. And they said no. So they don't talk about any of that. So I am mystified. I'm mystified. I don't know. I can't.
2 last questions.
Okay.
Shannon will be next.
Thank you for coming today. I know you mentioned earlier that you gave God 2 questions of, should I go this route or that route? I think the power of God bringing you here today just shows that you're with us today and you're helping us understand. And, you know, for that, we don't always know what's best for us, but just to, you know, strengthen your sense of the power of God by being here today is wonderful goodness. I want to ask you, you know, we're a people of hope, but clearly hope is not a strategy. What can you tell us as a Jewish community, you know, if you could bullet point out, you know, 3 or so points, what can we do better in communicating with our Christian, Catholic, Mormon, you name it, friends to help them understand, and so we can be force multipliers of what you're doing?
Thank you. I mean,
Love that.
I mean, Elizabeth, you might want to chime in on this. What would be like 3 bullet points that the Jewish community could do to force multiply our efforts?
Well, I first want to say, so I'm married to a Jewish man, and I'm Italian, so my mother-in-law told me very early on, well, you're the next best thing to being Jewish. If I can't have you a Jewish daughter-in-law, at least I have an Italian daughter-in-law. But the first few times I met my father-in-law, he didn't speak to me the first time, didn't speak to me the second time, and then the third time it was, Elizabeth! It was like that Sex and the City scene. I don't know if any of you saw it, but the Jewish community has been so welcoming throughout all of this. It's been amazing to see from Maman to any of these organizations that we work with. It's just open arms, open hearts. And I would say just continue with that love, continue with that openness, continue with that understanding, because there's no one like the Jewish people. I mean, the resolve, the strength, the hope, the joy, the love. And if we look back in the scriptures, God never uses many, like Patricia was saying before, God never uses many to accomplish his will and to protect, to save the Jewish people in Israel. And he invites us in because God doesn't need us. He doesn't need Patricia. He doesn't need me. He will fulfill his covenant with Israel and the Jewish people. And we just have to continue on with hope and with that faith that God will take care of this. So that's the one thing I would say is just keep on educating, keep on being open, and keep on with the faith and the hope.
And I think, we don't know like all the machinations of the religious leaders of any city, but especially reaching out to Catholics, it's a kind of impenetrable sort of institution, as I was saying to Rabbi before. And also, these individual Catholic parishes, they usually have like one priest. They're not like these huge evangelical churches like a Joel Osteen that has like billions of dollars to spend on all kinds of ministries and stuff. It's like this priest like trying to hold this place together with spit and string, right? And so, but I think that, so they've got so much on their plate and not a lot of help or financial support. So, but I think reaching out to your, whatever the local parishes are around you, whether it's Catholic or Protestant or evangelical, to, just to let them know, hey, we're open to let's do stuff together. I mean, I think that's the way to do it, is find events as opportunities for education and just to unify the city.
I'm going to have one last question. I just want to thank Elizabeth, who literally put everything together. You're on your communication all day long. It's like I'm the only person you're working with, but I know there's hundreds of others. And the connection with Rabbi Strasberg in Nashville, Tennessee, who's a good colleague of ours, is truly amazing. And you're actually uniting the Jewish community as well as the Jewish and Christian community. So thank you. Let's ask 2 questions and you'll answer them together. So Joseph question, Shana question.
I just wanted to thank you for being here. We had some conversations before. You've reached out to Christians and Catholics. Have you ever thought about reaching out to non-violent Muslims?
We actually, at our last event here, we had some beautiful Muslim women come up and said, we want to work with you. And that's going to be so important. I think that actually that's going to be the key to getting into some of these churches is, we find non-radical Islamists. We find Muslims for peace, especially in the Catholic space. There's a little streak of antisemitism that I've discovered amongst some Catholics and among one very big one, that is shocking to me. And so we need to yes, we're working on that, and it's important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I guess my question is, October 7th was such a wake-up call for anybody with any sense of morality. But as Jews, we all fell asleep at the wheel as far as the real state and undercurrent of anti-Semitism that obviously never left. It didn't just appear on the 8th. It just got a license to reappear. So I guess my question is, God willing, this war will be over sooner than later, and God willing, this tide of anti-Semitism will ebb again. Can you sort of elucidate, what is the long-term mission of O7C, or is it just until the hostages get home, or what's the long-term vision? And thank you again.
Yes, one of the events early on that we hosted was Ambassador Michael Herzog, who's the ambassador from Israel to the United States. And I got the privilege of doing a Q&A with him. And actually, my husband asked the question of what can be done going forward. And he said one of the problems, one of the things that Israel kind of fell down on was making sure that, the education that Palestinians were being given, appropriate education. And of course, now we know that and Hillel Neuer is doing great work in this area, is that UNRWA was just propagandizing and brainwashing with pure Jew hatred, pure, to all these young kids and their families. And so there's this education, I think, going forward in that area, but just in the United States of all our kids. We were talking about educating just about our country and our values and freedom, but I think part of that is the history of Israel, the true history of Israel. Noah Tishby has done great work on that. And to make sure that people understand what's at stake. So I think going forward, once the war is over, it's continuing. We see now that we can't sleep, and that we, as much as we, like I like to say that we were all normal people having normal lives, having our careers and our families and our, school and raising our kids, while there was this core group of psychopaths who spent 24/7 thinking of ways to destroy Israel and the Jewish people. Now we realize we have to be vigilant, and part of that is coming together. If we unify all Christians and Jewish people, then we're going to be okay. But now we realize that has to be part of our daily lives going forward, is keeping an eye on what's happening and what our kids are being taught, what's happening in the world, and making sure in our own neighborhoods we're doing what we can to unify Jews, Christians, and peaceful Muslims.
We are going to conclude. Before we do, I just want to make sure, maybe Elizabeth, I don't know if you want to elucidate for just a second, tell us the website, tell us ways that we can make sure to tell our Christian friends, get involved, or tell our friends who are pastors and reverends, check out this website.
Yes, all of our tags are at the official 07C. And Patricia was on Fox News last night with Rodham Cooper, as well as Tali Benner, who is a survivor of Nova. So we're going to be posting that. You can send that. That was a great interview. You could send that around. And then our website is October7coalition.com. So just follow us. But there's so many great organizations, and I'm hopeful that everybody soon, it will be all of us together under one umbrella, just fighting this together.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Yeah, just 7.
On behalf of
October
Sinai
7.
Temple, I want you to know, for the two of you,
October7coalition.com.
Patricia, Elizabeth, you always have a home here at Sinai Temple.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Can we borrow your cantor and